So at the start of the year, I very famously said that I was not setting goals. I was not buying a planner. I was not making a list, checking it twice. And no tea, no shade, no pink lemonade to the planner girlies. If that system works for you with the tabs and the highlighters, I love that. I have tried to be that person and it never works. It basically ends up with me having a really expensive, empty notebook. So instead of doing that, instead of trying to force energy that I did not have in the dead of winter, I said, I'm going to take my time. I called it slow boarding, SLOW. I'm going to slow board my way into the year. And instead of setting goals, I created questions. I created 6 questions that I have been using to guide my year. And y'all, it is turning out to be one of the best decisions I have ever made because instead of focusing on what I wanted to do, the questions forced me to think about who I wanted to be. And by thinking about who I wanted to be, by focusing specifically on alignment, it has set me up to have one of the most expansive seasons of my life. It has set me up to have unprecedented success. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through this process and why asking questions versus setting goals might just be the key to you having the best year of your life. Keep watching. Hi, I'm Dr. Shantae. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, what I do over here is reframe cultural narratives from a trauma-informed and sociological perspectives. And one of those cultural narratives that I reframed this year was this idea of productivity. We live in this very capitalist-driven, productivity driven society. And I don't have to tell you how exhausting that is, that you are valued in so many ways by what you're producing, or how much you're making, or goals that you're reaching, instead of who you are actually being. Because I will never forget, Mike Tyson was interviewed a few years ago, and the interviewer said, but you're such a great man. And Mike said, I don't want to be a great man. I want to be a good man. Because a lot of people who have done great things, innovative things like life changing, technology driven innovations or whatever, are not good people. Okay. They lack moral character. When you look at the famous files, okay, that have been a source of consternation in this country, some of the best, brightest, smartest, most innovative leaders of our time are morally bankrupt and compromised. And so, even though they have created and produced a lot of great things or innovations, whether that's in music or arts and science or in technology or in medicine, the fiber of their character, who they are, is lacking. And that's because we live in a country that doesn't really emphasize character. We are under the kind of leadership that doesn't emphasize character and morality. And so this year I was abandoning all of that. I'm like, I'm not doing the prove it game. I'm not doing the hurdle jumping game. I'm not doing the box checking game. Instead of thinking about what I want to do, I want to focus on how I want to feel, how I want to show up, and who I want to be. And so I created these 6 questions. Rapid fire, here are the questions. And if you have been watching my channel, these questions are not new to you. I hope that you have made a list, checked it twice. I hope you have taken note of the questions. Here are the questions. What rooms do I want to be in? What do I want to experience? What connections would I like to make? So who do I want to be in community with? What conversations would I like to be having? And what tables do I want to sit at in terms of where do I want to have influence? And in what ways do I want to contribute to the change I'd like to see in the world? So those were the 6 questions. And Q1, okay, so we have January, February, March. Logic would dictate that if you don't hit the ground running, that you're going to be behind. No, because I didn't hit the ground running, because I set my intention around all of these specific questions, it's like the universe conspired to bring in a to bring me in alignment with exactly what I said I want it to be. And I love this quote. If you've ever read the book The Alchemist from Paulo Coelho, he says that when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it. And that's how I have felt this quarter, is that rather than focusing on output, which is exhausting, which is not sustainable, which is draining, and to be quite honest, it really kind of sets you up because when you listen to your body, because sometimes you don't always feel like pursuing the goal, when you prioritize yourself, that means that you might not be making progress towards that thing that you said that you wanted. And I'm not against goal setting, but a lot of times we're encouraged to push through, dig deep, beast mode. And sometimes we do that at great harm and detriment to ourselves. I'm not saying that we shouldn't pursue goals. I'm saying that if the process of pursuing seems exhausting, that there is an alternative approach, that rather than pursuing, you are aligning, that rather than pressure, you are creating permission for good things to happen in your life, that rather than chasing things down, that you are just allowing them to come to you. And I have found that to be a more peaceful approach, a more joyful approach, a more expansive approach rather than checking boxes and chasing productivity. So, why does this work? Let's talk about it. There's actually neuroscience behind this. Oh, I love a good nerd moment. So, let's nerd out for a second. Okay, I'm going to read this to you. So, I remember this actually. There's a book called Afformations, Afformations. Okay, Afformations. And it was this book, hold on, let me get the author, written by Noah St. John, 1997. And the word combines affirmation, so affirmation, and questions. And the science behind this, so the neuroscience behind this, is that when you ask your brain a question, it activates something called the reticular activating system. So it's the part of your brain that filters information. So when you ask your brain a question like, what is the best Italian restaurant? Your brain, that part of your brain, the RAS, starts to filter out everything that's not a good Italian restaurant and is like, okay, so like in Chicago, Ciccio Mio is one of my favorites. Monteverde is one of my favorites, and my brain, my reticular activating system is filtering out all of the information that isn't the Italian restaurant and starts to bring forward the information that is the Italian restaurant. And so in the book, Afformations, when you ask questions like, why am I so capable? Your brain cannot not answer a question. Like it's like a dog with a bone, or like squirrel. When you ask your brain a question, your brain starts to immediately look for answers. And so there's this viral trend right now where when you see these crying babies and the mom is like, Jessica, Jessica, where are you, Jessica? The baby stops crying because it's like, who's Jessica? Where's Jessica? What's a Jessica? You know, like the brain cannot not answer a question. And at the same token, when you ask yourself questions like, why does this always happen to me? Why am I such a failure? Why am I such a whatever? Your brain will start to look for evidence to confirm the negativity that you just presented it. Likewise, when you ask yourself a positive question, an affirming question, your brain will look for the evidence. Why am I so capable? Why am I so great? Why am I such a good fit for the role of this job? Or why am I such a meaningful contributor to this organization? Okay. So I didn't realize it at the time, but what I was doing, that by asking questions rather than setting goals, I was activating my reticular activating system that forced my brain to act as a filter. Okay, what rooms do I want to be in? Well, it immediately filters out rooms that I don't want to be in. What connections do I want to make? Who do I want to be in community with? Well, it immediately filters out people that I don't want to be in community with. And what it does is that by filtering out what I don't want and start to focus on what I do want and answering those questions, then it brings me in divine alignment or perfect alignment in terms of looking for the opportunities that are in alignment with the rooms I say I want to be in, that are in alignment with the conversations that I say I want to have, that are in alignment with the tables that I say I want to sit at. And so by asking yourself these questions, your brain starts to filter out things that don't align with the question, that don't align with where you say you want to be, with where you say you want to go, with rooms that you say you want to sit in. And so by asking these questions, you are focusing your attention on the answers rather than focusing your attention on output and metrics and benchmarks. And I have to say that my brain being involved in the activity and the science of looking for things that expand my life, looking for rooms that expand my life, elevating the conversations that I'm having and the discourse that I'm having that expands my life has been chef's kiss. And the reason why I don't feel the pressure to produce is because the answers to the questions, okay, the evidence that my brain is searching for is putting me directly in alignment with who I say I want to be and how I say I want to experience my life. Does that make sense? So these 6 questions, I call them raising the bar. Okay. So and it literally, man, just, it delivers, man. It delivers. I'm so excited about it because when you do new things and then they like work. Okay. So the 6 questions really kind of break down into like these 3 different arcs, right? These 3 different categories, specifically environment, experience, and then people and connection, right? So when I say what rooms do I want to be in, what tables do I want to sit at, that's environmental. And so for me, I wanted to sit in rooms that were beautiful, historical, intellectual, and engaging, right? And so I found myself at places like the Art Institute. I found myself having salon-style Jeffersonian dinners at a place in Chicago called Kibitz Nest. I found myself in writers' rooms, and so in Chicago there are so many just inspirational places that just make you want to write, that make you want to create. And as you know, I have this new publication, like I'm starting this new journey as an author. And so I was like, I want to be in rooms with writers. And as soon as I said that, right, like as soon as I said I want to be in rooms, in writers' rooms, then these opportunities to be connected with other writers just like boom came right in my lap. So even beyond the science of my brain looking for answers, it was like, even as I was scrolling on social media, I was like, wait a minute, here's an opportunity that is directly in alignment with this thing that I said that I wanted. And so I was able to participate in workshops and be in connection in rooms, virtual and real, with other writers. So the second arc was experiences. What experiences do I want to have? And so I started thinking, I'm like, what are things that I've never done, things that I want to do, adventures that I want to have, right? And so one of those was skiing. So for the first time in my adult life, I hopped on a pair of skis. I did a vlog about it. You guys can go and watch that at your leisure. Watch it while you're folding laundry. It's a lark. I thought about tennis. And so I was an avid watcher of tennis from my living room with my grandmother because she loved tennis, but she was never actually able to get out and experience the games themselves. And so I found myself at Indian Wells in California experiencing tennis, right? The tennis matches. And it was just such a different energy and vibe being up close and personal watching it than sitting in your living room watching it. It was just night and day. It is not to be compared, okay? Being up close and personal watching it versus watching it from your living room, totally different experience. And then I wanted to experience kind of like whimsy and nuance. I'm like, so what is something that is like totally out of my wheelhouse, something that I would like never do, right? Well, last year I discovered that Chicago has a professional rugby team. And so this year I became a professional rugby team season ticket holder, right? So I think there's like 4 or 6 games in a season. It's not huge. And I think the investment was something like $150, okay? But I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be a season ticket holder of rugby. I'm going to experience that. It is pushing myself out of the typical confines of what would be considered typical for a Black woman from the south side of Chicago. Okay. And it's like, yeah, I want to be expansive. And so I'm expanding myself. And as soon as I said, I want to put myself in these new places and I want to experience these new things, it lined right up. And then the last arc is people. Okay, what conversations do I want to be having? What connections do I want to be making? What contributions do I want to be making? And as soon as I said I want to be in connection with other writers and authors, I recently just came from BookCon in New York and I met Kennedy Ryan and I met Lily Chu. And it's just like, I'm like, wait, I have your books on my shelf. And like, here you are. And also just kind of having this experience like, wait a minute, when my book gets published, these are going to be my peers. Like we're going to be fellow published authors and just wow, what a full circle moment to go from a consumer of text to a producer of text and then be in the room listening to other producers of text and listening to their process. I said I wanted to be in a room with writers. And so like as soon as I said that, okay, this query workshop. So a query workshop is a workshop that teaches you how to pitch your book to agents. And I didn't know what that process was. This was my first time in the publishing rodeo. And as soon as I said I wanted to be in rooms with other writers, Eric Smith from Neighborhood Literary out of Philly was like, hey, I'm going to host this workshop. And it's going to be 3 different sessions. I'm going to teach you how to write this query letter. You're going to be able to get feedback, and I'll read the first 10 pages of your query. Which, let me tell you something. If you are an aspiring author, having an agent read your work and give you feedback, because a lot of times you just send your stuff out and you never hear a word, a peep, it's crickets, it's nothing, okay? So that was an invaluable experience. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, I need to be in that room. Why did my camera video like literally die in the middle of that segment? It got overheated. But what I was saying was, and I missed the boat when I saw the first query workshop because you wait long, you wait wrong, and I just completely underestimated how many people would be interested. And the thing filled up, sold out, whatever. And so I was like, hey, if you offer another one, please let me know. And wouldn't you know, 3 days later, they offered a second workshop. I swooped on it and I used that knowledge to create my query letter, which is what I then subsequently used to land my literary agent. Ta-da! So, what is my point here, folks? That asking questions rather than setting goals filters your brain in a way that allows you to align yourself with the experiences, the connections and community, and the places and spaces that help create the best and highest version of yourself. Because here's the truth. A lot of us are in survival mode, been living in survival mode, have just been trying to put one foot in front of the other, carry water, chop wood, carry water, chop wood, just put your head down and just try to push on, just try to soldier through. And survival is not survival is necessary, but it's not all that there is. And I think that by asking these questions, even just one of them, okay, what experiences do I want to have? Or what rooms do I want to be in? Just asking even one of these questions can put you in a position where you can start to break out of survival mode, when you can start to break out of chasing and hustling and grinding and just pounding the pavement, just trying to make a dollar out of 15 cents. And I think that it can start to free up your brain to think about what your life could be when you are not under the pressure and under the gun and just trying to eke out some sort of existence. That maybe, just maybe, by asking yourself these questions, your brain starts to go in pursuit of and starts to filter out to things that don't lead to your best and highest self and start to help focus your attention on the things that do. So in closing, goals equals metrics, pressure, performance. Questions equals identity, alignment, and openness. And I can tell you, having experienced both, the questions are working better for me. The questions feel better to me because I feel like the goal setting game and the box checking game is playing somebody else's game. You know how like when you come into a home or an apartment and it's cool, the layout is cool, but you just haven't made it your own yet. That's how it feels setting goals at the top of the year, it just feels like this forced sense of productivity that just is out of alignment with the energy that I have. And asking these questions has really changed the game for me. And so these questions are available to you. I hope you guys took a screenshot. I will put the questions down in the description. But I hope you found value in this content, and it's not too late for you. So we are in Q2. We're still April, May, June. So if you start to think about how do you want things to shape up for you in the coming year, for the rest of the year, if you have already set goals that have already been abandoned, like, oh man, I was going to hit the gym 3 times a week and then, it didn't happen. This is a totally different energy. It's a different experience. And instead of, I want to hit the gym 3 times a week, it might be, I want to have a healthy lifestyle. And so that might mean going to the gym, but that also might mean putting on a weighted vest and hitting the walking trail. It could mean getting on a bike. It could mean joining a run club. It could mean so many different things that don't limit you to the box, the goal, the metric, the benchmark, the performance. Dun, da, da, da. So if you found value in this content, by all means, leave any questions, comments, aha moments down below. And if you haven't already subscribed, I encourage you to do that as well. And I will see you next time.